Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Angel Storm. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am answering your questions about the difference between healthy narcissism, narcissism as exhibiting traits, and then narcissism as an actual diagnosis. So this is a really interesting question to me, actually. I don't know that I've ever stopped to think about narcissism in a healthy way. And I actually messaged the person who sent me this question back and asked what they thought healthy narcissism was. And this is something that I really think that we need to clarify. They said to me that they felt like healthy narcissism was looking out for yourself somewhat. So being able to go after what you want and not all of the time take into consideration what other people want. And other things like this. So first of all, there is a difference between self-love and taking care of yourself and narcissism. And actually what that person was talking about and what they were describing as healthy narcissism is actually self-care, self-love. It's taking care of your priorities first when that's appropriate. Sometimes you have to put other people before yourself. But if you are constantly putting others before you, if there's codependency issues where you're constantly taking control over somebody else's life and helping them make decisions at the expense of what you want to do, your dreams, your life, that kind of thing, that's unhealthy. And so it's important to recognize that there's two extremes that you can go when it comes to that. But what this person is calling healthy narcissism is actually, again, self-care, it's self-love, it's having healthy boundaries, it's knowing how to set appropriate consequences when those boundaries are breached, and it's being able to say no, it's being able to say yes to the things that are actually going to help you reach your goals, it's surrounding yourself with healthy people, it's making healthy choices. That's not healthy narcissism, that's just living healthy. So I really started to think about healthy narcissism, and there just is no such thing. There is no such thing. We all have narcissistic traits. That is very true. We all exhibit traits of narcissism where we want to be the center of attention, where we want something that somebody else has, and we think about ways to go ahead and get it. We think about how we could get something even at the expense of somebody else. But we don't always act on those. We actually have thoughts that we shouldn't act on all of the time. That doesn't mean that we are the sum of our thoughts. We're not the sum of our thoughts. You are what you do, not what you think. So it's really important to recognize that as well. It's normal to have those thoughts about doing things that a narcissist would do, and especially if you are with a narcissist. A lot of the time during the day. So if you're surrounded by coworkers or bosses who are thinking in a way a narcissist does because they're narcissists, and you start to think the same way that they do, or start to think about the way that they go about their work and how you could change to do your work, that's normal because you're around narcissists and you're thinking that their tactics would also work for you. Again, I talk a lot about how victims of narcissistic abuse can actually pick up traits of the narcissist because, one, that's learned behavior, they're around it all the time, but two, they see narcissism working effectively for the narcissist. The narcissist is getting what they want, and the victim will think, if I do that, I could get what I want. This is why if the narcissist, for example, calls you names or does silent treatment to you or any kind of thing like that, gaslights you, you might feel like you want to do that to the narcissist, that you want to use some of those same tactics on the narcissist, except it doesn't work that way. And I've explained this before in my videos because, number one, narcissists are playing chess where you're playing checkers. There are so many moves ahead of you that you thinking, okay, I'll do this one thing to them, I'll gaslight them one time, I'll call them a name one time, that actually has no effect on them. And it's just tearing down your own sense of what is right and wrong, your own ethics and your own behavior. So now you're just really abusing your own self. And by the way, a narcissist knows that. So the difference between narcissistic personality disorder, like as an actual diagnosis, and people who have traits of narcissism, this line, I think, is getting more and more blurred, especially in today's society, because there is so much focus on the facade, the way that you project life to other people, and especially with so much social media, emphasis on social media, your social media following, your social media platform, how it looks, all of that kind of stuff. This is really becoming more of a blurred thing, I think, and unfortunately, I think it's becoming more normal. I think it's becoming more accepted to exhibit traits of narcissism and not be held accountable to change your actions. Guys, I'm sorry, my phone is going off. I forgot to turn it on silent. But yeah, not being expected to change and just adapting to narcissistic traits. I think society as a whole is just adapting to the traits of narcissists that is encouraging people to only work on the facade and not on actually what's going on internally. I've talked a lot about on this channel too before that your inner world will always suffer if you're only focusing on your outer world. Whereas if you put the energy onto fixing your inner world and growing your inner world, your outer world will naturally follow that. So narcissistic tendencies, narcissistic traits have it backwards, and that's becoming more and more and more accepted. And I worry that it will get to the point in society as a whole where it will be like an epidemic. It will be so overwhelming, and now we have so many people having severe mental health issues, including mental health breaks, that it will be difficult to handle it effectively, to effectively offer care to people who have only lived their life a certain way of the way that they portray it, and having them come face to face with reality will be more and more difficult because they've never done that their entire lives. They've lived in this fake world and with edited photos and the perfect lighting and all that kind of stuff. And when in reality, life isn't like that. Life is messy, life is hard, it can be difficult, it can be very sad and tragic, it can be traumatic. And if you maybe are experiencing some of those things, but you only portray that everything is amazing, you never get to sit and embrace the hard times that life has to offer you. Life isn't just meant for you to only feel happiness. That would be like a robot that only can feel one thing. Life is supposed to teach you how to feel all of the emotions that you are going through, how to effectively grieve, how to effectively suffer loss, how to change, how to adapt, how to evolve, all those things that we sometimes want to ignore. Life is trying to get you to do those things because there is something inside of you that can only be unlocked. It can only come forth. You can only bring it to the world when you face those things. A flower that's growing in the ground as a seed, it has to first do a whole lot of work before it looks good on the outside. It has to push through all of the soil. At first it's just growing, one stalk and a couple of leaves. And think about that as in terms of life. Like, it starts out cold and dark and lonely and buried underneath a bunch of dirt. Life is that way. And unfortunately, we just have a lot of people who just want people to see the flower, and not all of the work, the process that it took to get there. And so I am worried about the rise of narcissistic traits in society as a whole. Narcissistic personality disorder as a diagnosis, again, even that is a spectrum. It's part of an overall cluster B personality disorder group. There's clusters A, B, and C. You can go look those up for your own self. What that means is essentially that they're clusters, so they go together with something else. So you can have somebody with NPD and bipolar. You can have somebody who has NPD and antisocial personality disorder. You can have somebody who's a psychopath and NPD, meaning there's going to be NPD built into multiple other personality disorders. They're clusters for a reason. They're called clusters for a reason, meaning that there's going to be multiple traits exhibited in the diagnosis. I don't teach people to diagnose people. I don't diagnose people. I don't do clinical work. There's a reason that I'm only a life coach and not a clinician, and even though I have a Ph.D., I don't want to do clinical work because it's extremely difficult to accurately diagnose people and accurately treat people. Every person is different. So I prefer to do coaching because first of all, I've gone through this process myself. I'm very familiar with the process of healing, of recovering from narcissistic abuse in every single way, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, relationally. I've done it my own self. And number two is that I prefer to just give people a roadmap and help them figure out how that roadmap looks in their life, where there are there's more strict rules on how to treat people in a clinical sense. And not only that, but for narcissistic abuse recovery, there just really isn't a lot of actual curriculum to be able to take people through that process. So anyway, I hope that this video was helpful to you. I hope you understand that there is no such thing as healthy narcissism, that there is a huge difference between narcissistic traits and somebody who's diagnosed with NPD or another cluster B personality disorder, and that these are all spectrums, right? So there isn't like you need to meet these, they have these 5 characteristics, so all people with those 5 characteristics are the same type of narcissist. No, it doesn't work that way. And the rise of narcissistic traits in society is deeply concerning, which is why if you've been through narcissistic abuse, that you get appropriate help, that you recover completely, because it's also important to recognize when people are unhealthy, when people have not met themselves at a level that they are able to have a real relationship with you. Sure, they might not be a narcissist, but that doesn't mean that they're in a state of mind, in a state of awareness that they can be in any type of healthy relationship. I'm talking about even friendships, any kind of relationship, boss to employee, any kind of relationship. They're not able to have a deep, healthy relationship because of the lack of self-awareness and the lack of depth that they've met their own selves at. So again, if you've been through narcissistic abuse, it's really important that you get the full recovery, that you go through the entire process, because people who, definitely narcissists, definitely people who are diagnosable narcissists, but also people with narcissistic tendencies, with extreme narcissistic tendencies, will be able to pick you out. You're going to be carrying around the wounds that scream, I'm a victim. So it's, again, really important that you get help, however that looks for you. Make sure that you go through the whole process and you get the full healing that you need. Again, I'm Dr. Angel Storm. Thank you so much for watching my video. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel below and turn on the little bell so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video to this channel.